Trump administration was recently rebuked by the Supreme Court over the census controversy. It said it was backing down and then reversed itself, saying that it would still try to get a citizenship question on the census. And that's not all. The news tonight is fallout over the DOJ replacing the lawyers working on this issue. Now, the Supreme Court ruled against the administration. The context is they basically said there weren't good enough reasons to add the citizenship question to the census, which of course controls everything, politics, resources in America. Now, a lot of people have pointed to this story and the evidence presented and say part of the illicit goal of the administration was to basically depress participation in the census from Democratic areas. Now, the Trump administration had initially, as I mentioned, accepted defeat. The Census Bureau said, we won't put in any citizenship question anymore. But this is the Trump administration. It doesn't look all that organized because then Donald Trump overruled his own employees and said, we're absolutely moving forward. DOJ lawyers appeared caught off guard. One told a judge, quote, the tweet was the first I'd heard of the president's position, and I'm doing my absolute best to figure out what's going on. This weekend, Trump insists it's full speed ahead.
We can do a memorandum. We can do an executive order. We're looking at different things. I believe our Attorney General is a fantastic man, and I think he's got it very well under control.
So what does it mean when you have this much zigging and zagging and the replacement of lawyers at the DOJ? Well, let's learn a little bit from someone who's held some of the most senior positions there, including arguing Obama's Supreme Court cases. Former Acting Solicitor General Neil Katyal, who also, we should mention, represented the House and Speaker Pelosi's side in the census case. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
As some loyal Beat viewers may know, you and I have this regular date, which we enjoy. But you
are the best date of my week.
You are also literally the most qualified person to explain all this. Before we get to the debate part on the census, meaning the contents, the substance of it, I'm really curious if you can explain to us in plain English what it means when the Justice Department swaps out lawyers midstream. Does that usually happen? What's going on?
It never happens, Ari, and I think that's the census decision already was a big deal for the Chief Justice and 4 of his colleagues to rule that President Trump's rationale for the census wasn't just not good enough, which is what you said before, but also he said it was, quote, contrived, made up. And so that's a big deal. You almost never hear the Supreme Court saying that about any government official, let alone the President of the United States. But now it's getting way bigger. It's not just about the census. It's about the Department of Justice and President Trump's credibility in the Supreme Court of the United States. And the reason for that is, just to take you through the backstory, 11 days ago, the Supreme Court issued this ruling saying that we had won, that the census question was illegal. Then, we read the decision. We knew we won. The Secretary Ross, who administers the census, read the decision, said we won. The Justice Department's own lawyers went into court and said we won. Only Donald Trump, the one guy who doesn't read all that well, came to a contrary conclusion and said, oh, no, we can still do it anyway. And the real problem here and why these lawyers are leaving and all that has to do with the fact that the government's top lawyer, the Solicitor General of the United States, the position I held in the Obama administration, has gone to the Supreme Court 5 different times. In January, said we have to have this all decided by June 30th. And an extraordinary request said, we want to skip the Court of Appeals, Supreme Court. We need you to decide this by June 30th. Even 11 days ago, the Solicitor General told the Supreme Court that and said there was no appropriations money past June 30th. Now, all of a sudden, it's July 8th and President Trump wants to do something else. And if he can do this, then when will the Trump administration ever have any credibility whatsoever in the Supreme Court?
And just on that point, and I'll let you continue, the point you're making is when lawyers go to the Supreme Court on behalf of the United States government and make a claim, they both are bound by all the obvious ongoing oath and perjury laws, but they're also speaking for the United States. And so you're saying Donald Trump has put these lawyers in a position where if they simply continued along this road, they would effectively be caught in a lie in court on behalf of the United States?
You got it 100%, Ari. And so, the Solicitor General, I think when you hold that office, the most important thing you do is preserve and protect the credibility of the Justice Department before the Supreme Court. Every predecessor does that. And I know there are a lot of cynical viewers out there who think, oh, government does this or that. Every Solicitor General goes to the Supreme Court, for example, and says, hey, Supreme Court, we won this case in the lower courts. We're actually wrong. We should have lost it. The interests of justice require you to rule against us. That's the kind of credibility I'm talking about, which has been built since 1870 over generations. And the president is just literally torching that right now and saying all of these representations that were made, even the very fact the Supreme Court heard the case because of this June 30th deadline, all of that, no, just disregard that. And that's why I think you see all these lawyers from the Justice Department. I've gotten calls all day from Justice Department lawyers who are saying, this is horrible, please, help us, and that's a pretty sad state of affairs.
You've heard from multiple career Justice Department lawyers currently serving the Trump administration calling this, you said, quote, horrible?
Yes, I mean, I don't remember the exact words, but the effect of it is horrible and, and unprecedented and unlawless. I heard the word lawless at least by two different people.
Right. I mean, first of all, thank you for your reporting. Neil Katyal, he does more than one thing. But it is true reporting because we often talk to folks, and as we all know, most folks in the administration at any level, that's a fireable offense if they said that on the record. So they say it to people they trust. Sometimes those are colleagues, former colleagues. Sometimes they're reporters. So that right there is interesting reporting. Then I want to, as promised, get more into the meat of it. Take a listen to the current Attorney General, Bill Barr, on this issue.
Yes, we've been considering all the options, and I've been in constant discussions with the president ever since the Supreme Court decision came down. And I think over the next day or two, you'll see what approach we're taking. And I think it does provide a pathway for getting the question on the census.
What would that pathway look like? And since you've already stated some of your views, why is he wrong that there was a lawful way to shoehorn this back in?
Yeah, well, first of all, I don't think that was quite a ringing endorsement by Barr even. When you're the Attorney General and going to defend the president on something, I don't think you say, well, we might provide a pathway to do something. I mean, that already shows the lack of faith in this. And, there's a lot of reporting in all the newspapers today that says that all of the Justice Department's top lawyers think that this is going nowhere. And that is, of course, what the Justice Department concluded last Wednesday before the president's tweet. Now, why is that? Because the Supreme Court, for two reasons. One is the Supreme Court said the rationale that was being used was contrived. And the rationale back then, before whatever they meant the new one to be, was we're trying to enforce the Voting Rights Act, something I'm not sure the Trump administration even knew existed before. But, I think the Chief Justice saw right through that and said, there's no way that is a mismatch with what you're actually doing on the census. For them to come up with something new now is to basically admit that the game was rigged all along. I mean, they've been saying over and over again, there's only one rationale for this, the Voting Rights Act. Now there's all of a sudden a magic new rationale.
Right.
So it's one problem. And then the other problem is the timing problem that they told the Supreme Court in solemn filings, June 30th, June 30th, June 30th. And now they want to do something else when they've told the Supreme Court they don't have the appropriations funding. Can't do it.
You lay it out so clearly, and as you know better than most, there are many Supreme Court cases that are fundamentally close calls. That's why they're at the court. Hearing you break it down at this stage, maybe not at the inception, but at this stage with what's gone on and how they've really owned their own rationale, it doesn't look like a close case anymore. John Roberts would never put it this way, but DJ Khaled might tell the Trump lawyers here, you played yourself, and it's game over. Neil, always good to see you.
Great to see you.
Thank you, sir. And if you want to see this or other Neil Katyal Supreme Court breakdowns, msnbc.com/opening arguments. It's our dedicated page, and there's a lot of stuff in there, including stuff that is very relevant, including some of Mueller preview stuff that Neil also gave us, so you can check that out online. Hey, I'm Ari Melber from MSNBC. You can see more of our videos right here, or better yet, subscribe to our YouTube channel below. You could have been anywhere in the world, but you're here with us, and we appreciate that.